Hey, friends, and happy Friday. I am so glad that you are here today for another kitchen table talk. I have a word for you that I am excited to bring to you on this glorious day. If you have your Bibles, I would love for you to go get them. But if not, I'm just going to read one passage out of Ecclesiastes to you today. And then I've got some things that I want to discuss with you. If you have a journal and a pen, it might be handy because I am going to give you just a quick couple things to write down, but very much of an encouragement, I feel like, for us today. I'm going to be reading out of Ecclesiastes out of the New Living Translation, and I'm going to be reading verse 10. Like I said, just one verse. This is wisdom for life, and this is a great word that is being talked about here. And it is a word that I feel like God gave me maybe a year ago. I think it was April of last year. It was when COVID had just started. And so we didn't even know all we know now, right? How long it was going to be and how bad it was going to be. And just like what a devastation the whole entire 2020 year was for so many people. But this verse comes out of Ecclesiastes. And when I read it, I remember seeing this and thinking, yes, this is for this time. Isn't it interesting that, God will often give us a word that we feel like is really right for right now. And then we see it maybe years, months, weeks, or whatever later, and we go, really, it was for now. And so I feel like as equal as it was good for us to read then, it is a good word for us now. And it's Ecclesiastes 7:10, and it basically just says this: don't long for the good old days. This is not wise. Don't long for the good old days. This is not wise. How many of you would find yourself in a season, whether it be now or recently, where you would say, man, I just wish it was like that. I wish we just were back in the good old days. I was finding myself telling someone recently, man, don't you long for the days when things were just simple, when our kids were little and we just were going through life, and the greatest trial and tribulation that we had at that point was like the fact that our kid would come home and say somebody didn't sit next to them at lunch. And that was like the worst case scenario. And now like we feel like we're dealing with so much more severe things, and we have so much we're so far from the simple days of raising our kids, because now the issues that they deal with now, their problems are so much bigger and they demand so much more from us. And we were talking about the good old days, and whether it be that you are in this place where you're like, man, I just wish things were simple like that when our kids were younger, or maybe you just wonder what it would be like if we could just go back and it could be like pre-COVID, where we didn't ever know what it felt like to have to wear a mask, and there wasn't such panic and there wasn't such devastation that happened. Or maybe you're longing for the good old days when you were healthier. Maybe you find yourself in a place where you are just not very healthy right now. Maybe you wish that you were thinner back in the good old days. But whatever it is that we wrestle with, the word tells us that it is not wise to wish for the good old days. It's not wise for us to think of that. And so I started thinking of some things, and I wanted just to encourage you to write these down. Again, Ecclesiastes 7:10 is really asking us to not really remember those days as if we are longing to be back there. It's one thing to be able to remember those days and to be glad that they happened, but it's a whole other thing to wish that we were back there. You remember the Israelites, and when they came from Egypt after they had been rescued from their slavery by God, and they ended up in the wilderness for 40 years, they dreaded what was happening to them. They mourned the loss of food and of comfortability, and they actually longed to go back to Egypt. In fact, they even said many times, wouldn't it have been better if we would have just died in Egypt than to have been here and had to been eating this manna that nobody knows what it is, and been here with these awful people and with this horrible leader? Like, we're just wishing to go back to the good old days. And it's not wise for us to feel that way. So instead, we can say, God, you have put us in this place. You've taken us into this season for a reason. You have us here for a reason. whether that be, we're thinking that as here being as a nation or here as individuals. You have me in this place for a reason. So how can I make the best use of it? That's first and foremost what we need to be asking ourselves. We can say with certainty, God, we know that it is not in your heart that you did not purpose pain, but instead you propose progress. That you did not order this pain that we're going through, that you did not, order the terrible situation that we find ourselves in. We know that you are good and we know that you want good for us, but we also know that it is in our pain that you have actually purposed for us to have a progression, this progress. You have proposed progress for us. And so you want us to learn something in this. So wherever it is that you find yourself, whatever season that you feel that you are in, know this: while God didn't purpose the pain that you are feeling, He does propose progress. He does want you to progress and learn and grow from this experience. I also wrote this down. Our greatest concern in conflict should be the right use of circumstances that are appointed to us. In other words, whatever difficulties we find ourselves in, our number one thing that we should be aiming after is, God, help me to make the right use of this circumstance. Help me to make the right use. So, for instance, when quarantine first started, I was devastated. We had just moved to a new area. We wanted desperately to find a new church. I wanted to get into relationship with people in my community, with people in my neighborhood. And now we're on lockdown. And now, like, I have to be home all of the time when I am an extrovert and I like being around people and I like going out and I like doing things. Now I have to be at home. And I remember that season of time, I didn't even go grocery shopping. My husband went grocery shopping. And so I was home 100% of the time by myself here in a new city, in a new state, all alone. And I was devastated. But I remember saying, God, how will I make right use of this circumstance? How will I make right use of this? And God's like, get in my word more, be with me. This is time to spend with me more. And so we can look at our circumstances, we can look at our situation that God has us in. And while we know that it is true of His nature that He did not purpose the pain that we are feeling, He is allowing us to have this progression in our life whatever that means for you. He does propose progress for us, and He wants us to make right use of the circumstance, of the situation that we find ourselves in. And the last thing I want to tell you is this: regrets of the past are just as unprofitable as complaints of our present. Let me say that again. Regrets of our past are just as unprofitable as complaints of the present. So there may be situations where you're like, man, I really wish we could go back to that day. But maybe in your head, you're thinking, I have some regrets about that. I have some regrets about where I've been. And that is just as dangerous as it would be for us to be complaining about where God has us now. They're both unprofitable to us. And so how do we say, God, this is not a situation that I like. This is not a situation that I would choose for myself. But I know that while you didn't purpose the pain that I am experiencing here in this wilderness, here in this desert, here in this place where I don't feel like I am doing good or hearing you or being, profiting at all, while I know that you didn't purpose the pain, you have proposed progress. You have given me this opportunity to take what I am learning, to take what I am reading, to take what I am experiencing and use it to the best of my ability. So I pray, friends, that you are encouraged by this word, that if you find yourself in a situation where you are longing to be somewhere else, where you are longing either for the good old days or you're longing for the future, that you just can't wait to get through this season or whatever it is, I pray for you that you will be able to to take what it is that you are learning in this experience, that you will be able to take this experience that he has put you in, and you will be able to use it well, that you would be able to say, God, give me something that I can take away from this, so that when I come out on the other side, I will be changed and rearranged because of who you are and because of your goodness in my life. I pray that you have an awesome day with Jesus today, friends. Bye-bye.